let's talk about power animals or spirit guides. These are individuals or entities or presences that we often run into in the course of a shamanic journey or sometimes in everyday life. Spirit is always talking to us, always communicating with us. The difficulty is that we are not always listening. We are too busy. Our minds are in the past or in the future. We're dealing with multiple things at the same time, and we don't often step out of our routine and take time to listen to what Spirit has to say. But when you do, you find some very interesting things. First of all, Spirit does not talk to us in English. In fact, communication from Spirit is rarely ever linear in the way that we think of communication. It's not about words. It's more often about images, about pictures, scenarios, even animated beings carry with it the communication of Spirit, the wisdom of Spirit. So when we talk about power animals or spirit animals, I believe that we work with animals primarily because we have been with animals for as long as we've been human. In the beginning, we were part of the food chain, and so we ate things and things ate us. And most of those things were animals. So we have known animals for 100,000, 200,000 years, and it's only been recently that we've domesticated them. Nonetheless, we have a long-term relationship with animals. And so it makes sense that when Spirit would talk to us, it would talk to us within a symbol that we would understand genetically, and that would be animals. I believe that's why we focus in our journeys on animals, or rather why the messages of Spirit show up to us in that form. So, there are 4 different kinds of power animals that I would like to share with you. The first one is the one that a lot of people are interested in, and that would be the totem animal. People say, what animal am I? What is my totem? Well, it's a very good question, and it's one that many people have to go on quite a significant quest in order to find, to identify for themselves. The totem animal can be thought of as a representative of the individual's energy, the individual's spirit, rather than being random. A totem animal would represent who you are in this world as well as in the spirit world. My totem for now is falcon, and it was a very long quest in order to find that animal, for the animal to find me, essentially, and for me to be comfortable with it. But falcon, for me, tells me a lot about how I am in this world, and it also represents me in the spirit world. When I do a journey, I often journey with the falcon, for example. So the totem is a representative of your energy in the world. It's different from just a name. In indigenous cultures, when a baby is born, for example, they just don't tag it with the grandfather's name or the grandmother's name. The elder or the shaman will find a name for the newborn which fits the energy, and that's shown to them by Spirit. So that's how they come up with the very interesting names that are quite like them in tone, if that makes sense. Now, the totem will stay with you for a significant amount of time, but it is not always going to be the same one. For example, whenever a child is no longer a child and begins to enter into puberty and begins the journey into adulthood, essentially they're no longer the same person. And so their energy, their vibration may change. And when that happens, then they may need a new totem. They may need a new spirit representative to stand for them in this world and the other. And so often they would be given a different name as a part of the rite of passage. And so that happens many times, perhaps, in a person's life. Sometimes a significant event can also change an individual, and the totem that they use or is with them may also change of necessity. Perhaps they do something very heroic, and then their status and their place within the tribe may change. Or something happens to them which damages their spirit, and so they are no longer the same energy as they were before. And then again, their name may change, either to reflect their new status or to provide them with energy that they don't have and that they need. So the totem is an important power animal for an individual to have a connection with, and it is a longer term. A second type of power animal is encountered often in the journey, and that would be the journey animal. Often an individual who practices the shamanic journey on a consistent basis will encounter the same animal over and over and over again as a spirit guide on the journey. And that spirit animal may be fairly consistent, even though sometimes on some journeys a different animal will show up because it's more relevant, may have more information about that particular journey than the individual's standard or more common journey animal. But the relationship between the individual and the journey animal can be quite profound. The relationship between them can become very close, so that they know each other in a deeper way, perhaps even than they know their friends in everyday reality. They have a spiritual connection. So the journey animal then is a very important part of the journey process. Whenever you take it deeper and deeper and deeper, they turn out to be a guide, and they turn out to be a protector and helper in a number of different ways as the individual is working in the spirit world. A third kind of power animal, which is quite fascinating, is a messenger animal. Now, the messenger animal has a very specific message for the individual. What's interesting about these animals, though, is that they don't only show up in the journey. They may show up in everyday life. Most of us have had the experience, for example, of seeing the same kind of animal every day or in a very unusual way. For example, for quite a long time, every time I turned around, I saw dragonflies. Not just one or two, but many dragonflies in a place. They often would also show up at an intersection. Whenever I would stop at a stoplight or stop sign, a dragonfly would show up and hover right in front of my car. So it became impossible to ignore that particular animal. So the dragonfly had a message for me, and it took me quite a while to sort out what that message actually was. As it turned out, the dragonfly was telling me about someone who was coming into my life, who the dragonfly showed up at the same time they did, and I made the connection. Then I understood, and the dragonfly left me alone from that point on. Now, the way to work with these messenger animals is to recognize that they are symbolic. Their message to you, again, is not linear. It's a message from spirit, right? But it shows up in a symbolic fashion. So what you do with the messenger animal when it shows up for you is to look at what it is. What are its characteristics? What is it doing? A horse is different from a dragonfly, which is different from a squirrel. And each one of those have characteristics that are meaningful in the context of a message from spirit. And so you might take some additional time to do some research. Not so much about what it means. And you can look up on the internet what squirrel means, in quotes. But beyond that, what is it that you resonate with in terms of the characteristics of that animal? Perhaps it's something that you need to pay attention to, or maybe it's something that you need to have an additional skill that it's showing you, something you just need to pay attention to. But they do show up in everyday life, like synchronicities. The fourth kind of power animal is a shadow animal. Now, the shadow animal most often shows up in the context of a journey. And it is that animal or that spirit that is quite scary, perhaps overwhelming. And it is a powerful force in the journey process. So when you come across this shadow animal, you know it. And if you're not ready, you might want to go the other way, change your journey. On the other hand, you can encounter a shadow animal and learn from it what you need to know. The shadow animal brings with it a challenge. In other words, you have to step up. You have to prove that you're ready. But when you are ready and when you do step up, the shadow animal may have for you a tremendous power that you need or need to recognize within yourself, a gift, as it were, of power, which is why it's so scary and why you have to prove yourself. It is often an animal spirit that you're afraid of, very scary. Some people are deathly afraid of spiders or scorpions or snakes, and they may show up in the journey as those, something that you're afraid of. And it may not be fear. It may just be a sense of overwhelming. So it's not necessarily a shadow, but it is the dark part. It's the dark side of the power animal.